Hello, hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to PhotoDay Unframed. I'm Stevie, and I am here with Mr. Quintin, aka Santa Q. So I'm going to be asking him a couple questions about being a Santa. And if you guys have questions, you can just throw them in the comments. We'll get to as many of them as we can. So, hey, Q, how are you?
I am doing well. How are you doing? How was your weekend?
Oh, it was good. It was busy. Went to the Braves game. They lost. So
Oh, okay.
okay.
Well,
So
I started off my morning. I had a photo shoot this morning, a promotional photo shoot. So
okay.
my beard and my mustache are a little bit more groomed than usual.
You look very Santa-like. So
Thank you.
how yeah, absolutely. You want to just get started and give us a little background about how you became a Santa?
You know, I have been asked probably for the last 20 years to be Santa, but working in the corporate world, it's not necessarily an image that you want to convey. And so I deferred it. I do it on occasion. Oh, shoot. Back in the 90s when my kids were in Cub Scouts, and uh, about 10 years ago, my wife came home with a Party City suit, handed it to me, and said, "Here, you're wearing this," and did a SantaCon. But really, where I started doing it seriously was when COVID hit. Like
Okay,
many of the other people, I was working and was laid off, and
great.
I decided to not cut my hair or my beard. So up until June, I hadn't cut my hair since January of
Wow.
2020 or shaved since then. So
Wow.
I had a hair trim and beard shaping back then. So that's how I did it. And my wife says when it grew out, she said, "I'm pimping you out. You're Santa."
That's
But
what I'm
my
talking
my 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 professional background is in primarily IT.
about.
Uh,
Okay.
did a lot of business process type work, as well as my wife and I ran a small RV rental business
Oh,
on
wow.
two of the peer-to-peer networks, Outdoorsy and RV Share. So we have experience with that. And then I did a part-time job during COVID. I worked at a hotel. I was the night person
Wow.
and got to tell ghost stories.
So Santa has lots of experience then. So let's talk about what the most rewarding part about being a Santa is.
There's I tell people if you can be Santa, be Santa. It is that much fun and that much uplifting. I come
Right.
home a lot of times from appearances where my cheeks just hurt from how much I smiled.
That's
So the most
amazing.
rewarding thing I would say is seeing the reaction of the children that you're visiting with.
That
Uh,
is amazing.
I did I did Great Wolf Lodge. Well, I am the Santa at Great Wolf Lodge
Okay.
in Mason, Ohio. And my first night there, I tell people it was like being a rock star. You walk
Oh,
out of the dressing room, and the crowd is there, and they're all yelling and screaming. And ended up, we had to take the freight elevator to get to the set.
hey,
Is that And
that is
it's not me personally, they're reacting to the persona of Santa.
right.
That exciting to see you.
That is amazing. So, I mean, yeah, you're like a celebrity. Is there anything that is challenging about being a Santa, would you say?
There are always things. You get tough questions, and you have the teenagers who, they're beyond the age of believing, but it's
Yeah.
actually fun interacting with them and saying, "You're telling me you're too old to sit on my knee and have your picture taken with Santa?" I said, I was at an assisted living place, and there was a woman who was 101 years old sitting on my knee getting
Oh,
her picture taken. You can't do it,
oh my
you know,
god.
and then and eventually they'll join in with the with the rest of their family. And
That's
you do get the challenging questions that tug at your heartstrings. I was visiting with a family, and the little boy had won a visit from Santa as a drawing I had donated to a
okay.
fundraiser, and I asked him what he wanted for Christmas, and he told me a new kidney for his mother, um,
Oh my
diabetic and in a
gosh.
wheelchair. So you get those types
Yeah.
of questions as well.
Well, it definitely takes a special person, for sure. So, let's see, what kind of images would you say make the best Santa photos? And I also, I wanted to touch on because I know me and you had a conversation about this before. Crying kids. What do you do? And do you take pictures with crying kids?
All right, let's talk about the best image first.
Okay. Okay.
And I, you and I have talked before. I go to between 2 and 6 hours of class a week on the art and mastery of being Santa.
That is
And one of the things they talk about is how do you pose during a photography session? And they
right.
talk about how important it is for Santa to always look at the camera and be smiling
Right.
to take the picture. However, my experience, particularly when you get into more of the mini sessions and experiences, Santa experience type things, is you
Mhm.
want to be engaged with the children and be interactive with them. And some of the absolute best images are where the child and I are just focused on each other
Wow.
and not looking at the camera. And you get those type of images out of a longer session. If you're
Right.
doing the volume photography, yeah, you're trying to get people in place, get your shots, move on to the next. Or
Right.
like Great Wolf Lodge, uh, in a 2-hour appearance, I'll see 200 children.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
All right,
So next part of the question.
got to remind me what it was.
It was, what do you do when a kid's crying?
There's a couple of different things. One of the things, uh, when I'm at a place like Great Wolf Lodge, I have a handler who's doing crowd control. So I'll ask them to let me know if there are any special needs children coming
Okay,
through the line. So I'll be prepared to deal with that. But also, so I'll get a heads up if there's a child that's afraid of Santa. And it happens. I've actually encountered adults who are afraid of Santa.
yeah,
And what I prefer to do is I don't like sleighs. I prefer a more of a bench set. So if I have a child who's a little skittish, um, I'll try having one of the parents sit next to me and put them between me and the child,
right,
so they have a buffer there. The other thing is I'll get up and move away and let the family get situated. And then I ask the photographers that I'm working with to have a space behind the bench. So I'll
okay,
go offset, and then once they get everyone set, I'll come in behind so they can take
wow,
pictures.
okay,
And I won't say I will ever take a picture with a child that's crying, but
right,
I prefer not to. One of the other things for that I'll do is do like a drop and run. Uh, have the photographer right there with the finger on the shutter, and it's like you have 2 seconds.
right,
Mom, put the child on my knee, jump out the way, photographer, take the picture,
yeah.
and try to get a picture before they realize what's going on with the
So yeah,
picture.
I mean, that brings up a really interesting point. Like as a Santa, you have to be aware of, all those different situations and how to accommodate. So, um, on that note, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
I was gonna say it's important to have a certain ability for improvisations because you don't
Right,
know what's going to happen, so you have to be prepared to be able to react appropriately.
right. So, how would you say that a photographer could find a Santa? What would be the best way? And what do you think is most important, and what is needed for a Santa session? Which you kind of touched on with the environment, but you want to talk a little bit more about like the sets that you do and then how photographers can find a Santa.
Well, talking about the sets, I actually like just a plain bench. And you can dress it up a little bit with a blanket or some scarves to make it a little bit more color. Just because, typically you can sit three people on a bench, so I can have a child on either side of me,
Right.
one on either knee, and people standing behind. Uh, I'm not necessarily a fan of sleighs.
The throne.
They look great,
Right.
but you know, you, you're dependent upon 3 and 4 year olds to get up into them and out of them. So
Uh-huh.
I'm always concerned about one of them falling.
Right.
And
Okay.
then at the evening, I'm worried about Santa falling, getting out too.
We've got a
Uh,
question. Have you ever had the opposite problem where a child didn't want to leave Santa?
yes, it happens, and I typically will use sort of a wrap up line,
Mhm.
where I'll say, "Have a Merry Christmas.
Mhm.
Let's remember to be nice this year," and then focus on the next person
Right.
that's coming up. When you're in sort of that retail environment, you have to be conscious of how much time
Oh,
that
yeah.
you're doing with children. I read a comment earlier today in one of the Santa Facebook groups about one of the large outdoor sporting goods
Mhm.
retail outlets that
Mhm.
has Santa as a part of their Christmas every year, and they're
Right.
talking about a visit with a child every 2 minutes,
Okay.
and which is difficult to build rapport with them
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
during that time period. But I think also what it is if you're looking at volume photography, uh, you want a Santa that has that skill, who can build a rapport with a child and the children and the family during a relatively short period of
Right.
time, to be able to focus on them during that visit. And what I try to do is talk to them as if they're the only person in the room. Focus entirely on them to get their viewpoint. You want
Right.
to build that engagement, because that's where I believe the best photos come from, is
Wow.
when you can see the engagement in the faces of both Santa and the child.
Well, that
Okay,
definitely sounds like it takes special talent, I mean, honestly.
so if you're looking for a Santa, that would be one of the things I would ask them is, have you done retail experience? Tell me about, when if you're looking at volume photography, what have you done? There's questions about what props do you use? I'm sitting here actually with two of the props that I'll use in appearances.
Okay, what are those? The mug? I love it.
The mug and my watch. I don't know if
Oh
I can.
my gosh.
This is a picture where I had a photo shoot last year with a buddy, the elf, and I captured the image and then ordered watches for him and me
That
with
is
pictures of
so
us.
cute.
But I'll incorporate a story around it, and that story talks about, if you remember the elf, the end of the story is talking about Santa's sleigh won't fly
Mhm.
without the Christmas magic, the Christmas spirit, and how do
Uh-huh.
you do that? So the other prop I use is a co-pilot's license. So
Oh
I'll
my
wrap
god.
a story around this and talk about how their belief in Christmas is necessary for Santa's sleigh to fly. So this is where I'll typically start off a session, handing these out and draw them in to this and tell them about the story and get them nodding and agreeing,
That
type
is
thing.
adorable. I love it.
And I have it in this tin right here,
Uh-huh.
a whole bunch of cards, and I have cotton in the bottom with peppermint oil.
Oh my
So
gosh.
the cards smell like peppermint.
That is amazing.
And then I
So,
have other, it's like snickerdoodle.
snickerdoodle. I need to get some snickerdoodle
But
fragrance. That
that's
sounds
that's
amazing.
part of building the engagement with them.
Right.
The one thing I don't like is peppermints. I
Okay.
stopped handing out peppermints because I had children chewing on them and I was getting crunched up peppermint in
Oh
my
my gosh.
suit. So have stopped passing out peppermints and I've gone to the cards.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't want the sticky, uh, candy cane stuck to your beard at the end of a session.
Well, it's the suits which are not inexpensive.
Right. I'm sure none of it is.
Alright, and you asked me, how do you find a Santa?
Mhm.
And Google it.
Yeah, it seems like there's
Simple.
a whole community for it, so that's really interesting. It's not something you would think about. There's a whole community of Santas.
There's several different ways, I spent a lot of time back earlier in the year building a website and optimizing it for my Santa portrayal, and as part of that, I want when you say, "I want to find a Santa for hire in Cincinnati for a photography shoot."
Mhm, mhm.
I want to be on that very first page of search engine results,
Right.
and I've got it optimized now where I'll be actually over on the
Wow.
side on the first page, and I've gotten quite a bit of my, mini sessions through my website.
Okay.
Another thing that will typically pop up is a web page called Gig Salad, and that's a peer-to-peer type site.
Mhm.
I'm listed on there. I'm a premium member. So when you say I'm looking for a Santa for hire, that will come up. And then I'll also be in the top 10 for
Okay.
the area. So you can find Santas that way.
Okay.
What also will appear is an organization like Hire Santa,
Okay.
Worldwide Santa, and their agencies.
Hmm.
Gig Salad does charge a fee.
Right.
As far as peer-to-peer places go, it's actually really reasonable.
Right.
You look at someone like Hire Santa, Worldwide Santa Claus Network, you're looking at a 23 to 25% upcharge over
Okay.
whatever I bill. They'll add to that as well.
Okay. Okay, we have 2 minutes left, so give me
Are you
one piece.
serious?
I know. Look, our calls usually run way longer than this, so we did not get to cover everything, but do you have one piece of advice for anybody doing Santa sessions this year?
You better start looking for a Santa if you want a Santa
Yesterday.
because Uh, I was booking 2024 back in January,
Wow.
uh, and that's December 2024. I was booking in January. My schedule has been nearly full since June.
Wow.
I I did book like three, not just photo shoots, but that's 3 different sessions in the last
Right.
week. But I've been getting 3 to 5 inquiries every day for the last 2 weeks, and it just can't fit them in. One of the reasons I was looking at the volume photography world is Santa stay busy on the weekends and holidays.
Right.
Looking at the volume photography where you're working with a lot of schools and that type of things, where we have our short periods of times are during the week. That's when we're less booked. So if you can do a 2 to 4 hour session during the week, you have a higher probability of connecting with a Santa.
Wow.
And,
That makes sense.
we were talking about some of these things. I know there's a lot of topics, and you've seen a copy of the ebook that I put together. I think
Yes.
that link was being put in here for
Yes.
people to be able to refer to. It's talking to us about how to find a Santa, what to interview with a Santa, and some of those sort of questions. It was geared to both Santas and photographers
Okay.
working together.
Yeah, well, you are definitely one of the best in the business, as Santa John said. And great Santas do make even greater Santa photos. I think the proof is all in the experience. Like, if the Santa's giving a good experience, the pictures are going to be fantastic. So we'll drop that ebook. Also, we have another Photo Day Unframed that will be announced very soon, but you can join us on October 23rd. And I will just say we are so thankful for so many angels. And then our next webinar is actually tomorrow at 1. So definitely tune in to learn about all things group and public galleries. Santa Q, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Stevie. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, anytime. All right, guys. Until next time.